Unusual to see a hurricane of this magnitude make landfall anywhere in the United States, let alone so close to a major city such as New Orleans, Louisiana. But that is what they are facing right now and this evening as hurricane-force winds are beginning to reach the downtown metro area of New Orleans. Here's the storm itself. First thing you notice, perfectly symmetrical, a large CDO, central dense overcast away from a very symmetrical, very well-formed eye. This is the sight you see when you've got a very healthy hurricane, and this is a very strong one. Now, it's well inland now from the coast, but it is still a Cat 4 with winds of 130 miles an hour. This is the update as of 4 o'clock from the Hurricane Center, still Cat 4. Now, normally you get a storm that far inland from the coast, and it's already weakened at least a category or 2. But remember, the coastline of Louisiana is a marshy hodgepodge of Mississippi Delta, low marshland, and so there's plenty of ocean water still in this marshy area for the storm to feed off of, so they weaken much more slower when they make landfall in southeast Louisiana because of the marshy conditions there. Again, 130 mile an hour winds. We're still in here category 4. You get into that wind field and the destruction is described as devastating. We're taking a look at how this is beginning to impact New Orleans. So the storm itself from downtown is about 40 miles, maybe 35 miles from downtown New Orleans. So how large is the wind field on this? Well, it extends out about 35 to 40 miles an hour. Here's the visible satellite. This is looking down from outer space, just as if you were up there looking with a camera. And you can see the well-defined eye. Houma right now is getting the worst of it. Winds there have been gusting above 125. And here is that satellite with the current wind field overlaid on top. And you can see the city of New Orleans just getting into the edge of those minimal hurricane winds at 74 miles an hour. And the closer you get to the center, there's the center right there, the closer you get to the center, the stronger those winds get. It remains to be seen just how much in the way of hurricane force winds New Orleans is going to get. But on its current track, which takes it right up in here, you know, we'll have a center about 25, 30 miles east of New Orleans in about 2 or 3 hours. So as we head towards 7 o'clock this evening, I think that's when New Orleans may see the worst of the weather. And so far, they've got a lot of tree limbs down, a lot of awnings have been blown over. At the moment, no significant flooding, but that will also be a threat because they're on the dirty side of the system and they're going to see 10 to 15 inches of rain before it's all said and done. So wind speeds, there are a couple of ways we can measure them, and we've been doing them both here. I say we. So Addison Green is sitting right next to me here. Coming up on Quest at 5:30, he and I are going to diagnose this storm. We'll be live on Channel 55. I think we've got football on Channel 11. So if you want a complete update, Channel 55 Quest at 5:30, and we will have a complete update. Pictures, video, everything that's going on in Louisiana and in New Orleans. So these are winds measured by Doppler radar. So the radar beam shoots out from the center here, and we can measure the wind speed, the speed at which the raindrops are moving toward or away from the radar site. Now this beam is above ground level. So quite often the wind speeds you see here are a little stronger than what you're actually getting at the surface, but it's a great way for us to reach out and see what's going on. So New Orleans, we had a reading of 78 miles an hour. They've had gusts to 78 in New Orleans. Hammond, 67 mile an hour gusts. That's getting not too far from Baton Rouge, closer to the center of the Cat 4. There's the center. You know, we had some readings here, 119, 74 miles an hour near Leeville. So you get the idea. This is the type of winds, even still, out a little bit away from the center of the storm moves inland. And I am concerned once the storm gets in this position that New Orleans may see some stronger gusts than 70 or 80 miles an hour. They may have a 100 mile an hour gust before it's all said and done tonight in New Orleans. So these are the wind gusts measured during the past half hour by actual physical anemometers. New Orleans, a gust of 64. That's one of the strongest wind readings out there. When you get storms like this coming in when they're so strong, quite often they damage those physical anemometers very quickly. See, we're not getting any more readings out of Houma or Grand Isle. Those anemometers, those wind speed indicators have been broken apart by the strong winds. It's been my experience once you get gusts to 90, quite often they break. So you need other ways of measuring the wind. That's why we're still using that Doppler radar way of looking at the wind field. We continue to update that. Okay, track will determine the surge. The east side of the center, the right-hand side of the center has the strongest surge, and that will put New Orleans and Lake Pontchartrain in the worst of the potential surge. So the surge forecast is important. You're going to have winds, and we have winds right now coming across Lake Pontchartrain east to west. That is going to want to pile the water up on the west side of Lake Pontchartrain. Widespread areas here, 4 to 7, 7 to 11, rise in sea level or lake level as the wind pushes it off to the west. Now what happened with Katrina, and Katrina was on a path like this, we had the same thing. First off, we started with winds coming out of the east, and then as the center moved up here, the winds shifted direction, and that water sloshed back to the east and put a whole lot of pressure on the levee system near New Orleans, and some of them broke. And that was 16 years ago. They've done a tremendous amount of building up of the levee system since then. They're very strong, and they're not expected to break, even with this powerful storm making a track just to the west. But that is something we'll watch carefully for. Notice how the surge down here southeast of New Orleans, 12 foot plus, that's just a rise in sea level. You've got waves on top of that, and so that's just something that's not survivable and why they issued the evacuation orders down there. Now you notice New Orleans is in this white area. What does that mean? So this is the part of the city that is below sea level, and this is the part that they have levied off. So all of the edge of the white, those are levees. Most of them earthen levees. They've piled up the earth. They made a big dam, much like we have here in Houston, the Addison Barker Reservoir. Those are earthen levees holding back the water up there. And that's the only reason that New Orleans exists or is not underwater 24/7, or is the levee system here. So you can see how very important it is and why we pay such close attention to what the levees may or may not be doing in New Orleans. Right now they're all holding. That's why they're expecting no surge. They're expecting no surge in New Orleans as long as those levees hold. I've had no reports of any problems with those. We'll continue to monitor that as the storm moves through. I'm actually getting a little concerned about how this is going to play out in Baton Rouge. So the I-10 corridor here is going to see a Cat 1 hurricane tonight. This is going into midnight, 1 a.m. Baton Rouge, you're going to get a Category 1 hurricane either right on top of you or just to your east. Sustained winds 74 to 95 miles an hour, trees down, power outages, significant damage to roofs, shingles. It's going to be, and this will be when it's dark, very dangerous night between Baton Rouge and New Orleans on I-10. I think at least Category 1 hurricane for Baton Rouge as we head toward 10, 11 midnight tonight. I'm concerned because the models from the Hurricane Center, they want to weaken it so quickly, but it's not weakening right now, so I'm concerned you may end up with a Cat 2 hurricane over the Baton Rouge area as we head into 8, 9, 10 o'clock tonight. Something else that we're paying very close attention to. And then the track moves it north. Still a Cat 1 hurricane, Jackson, Mississippi. Good afternoon. You're expecting a Cat 1 Hurricane Ida to be just to the west or right in the vicinity of Jackson, Mississippi as we head into Monday morning, late Monday morning. So this is going to have widespread and long-reaching impacts well inland, even as we head into tomorrow, late morning and into the afternoon for Mississippi. And then a flood threat going into portions of Tennessee and Kentucky and the Appalachians and Virginias as well later in the week. There's so many different moving parts to a big hurricane like this making landfall. So for Louisiana, over the next several hours, hurricane conditions are reaching New Orleans now. They've got hurricane force gusts. Baton Rouge, you're expecting hurricane conditions to develop later tonight. I expect between 9 o'clock and midnight for Baton Rouge. Storm surge on the coast, 7 to 11 feet. That's ongoing right now, probably 15 feet in some spots. You'll have likely dozens of tornadoes as this moves inland through Louisiana and into Mississippi, especially as the storm begins to wind down. It can create dozens of tornadoes. So Mississippi, heads up, big tornado threat tonight into Monday morning and the midday on Monday. I've got rain at 6 to 12. That's an optimistic forecast. It could be heavier in spots, especially east of the center. That's New Orleans, Slidell, and that's also most of the state of Mississippi going into tonight and tomorrow. So long-reaching impacts. Now, I am here at KHOU 11 in Houston. We are looking at Houston and Galveston's local impact. Of course, Galveston and Houston, we've been watching this like a hawk. New Orleans is just down the road from us, and it's not lost on us that we're just kind of getting lucky that it's New Orleans' turn to get a big hurricane, and Houston, we're able to watch this one. So what's happening in Galveston? It's actually interesting. This is what we expected. We've got a north breeze. So what that's doing is it's settling down the seas across Galveston. We're not getting that washing machine effect. The ocean is actually quite beautiful. But if you look carefully, you can see, look at the swells, just lining up like clockwork. Those are swells. That's wave energy coming from Hurricane Ida, who's about 500 miles off to our east. But when you put a hurricane in a body of water, it's like dropping a pebble in a pond, and it sends these ripples out, and these are the ripples coming in. So it's actually an extraordinarily beautiful and interesting beach day in Galveston, and we counted. So in between each swell, there's 17 seconds. So there's let's call it a period of 17 seconds between each wave coming into the coast of Galveston right now. I see a lot of people down on the beach. It's a rip current threat. Sometimes you get these big waves coming in, and as the water pushes out, it can create a rip current. So for Houston, Galveston, we're having a nice quiet beach day. It's gorgeous down there. It's not so gorgeous in Louisiana. New Orleans facing a hurricane right now. We continue to think about them constantly and what they're going through and what they will go through. And in the coming days, they're going to need our help because power is going to be out. It's going to get hot. So water and some sort of comfort will be very, very important. Again, a complete update again live. Addison Green and myself on Quest. There's Addison on Quest, channel 55 at 5:30. We're live at 5:30 on Quest with a live update with pictures and video what's going on across Louisiana. And then, of course, back on KHOU 11 News at 10 o'clock for the complete story as to how Louisiana, Baton Rouge, New Orleans are handling Hurricane Ida. We'll see you for our next update on Quest, then 10 o'clock on KHOU 11 News at 10.